Hello Legion, this is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play some more Stellaris MegaCorp in our Roma Galactica II series. This is going to be an episode 1.5 for the series, just so that people who are starting the playlist for the first time can have every possible warning. I'm putting this video in. Those of you who are watching the series live as the episodes come out, you're seeing this shortly before episode 14 goes live. And those of you watching the series in the backlog, or just the episodes that are already out in the backlog, you hopefully saw this card while watching episode 1 at the beginning, and you know that there's a restart, but I still want to put this in the playlist in case people still manage to miss it. So I am restarting the series as of episode 14. And I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to kind of talk about why, and like the options that I weighed, and why I ultimately decided to restart the series, because there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't typically do complete scrubs of a series. I prefer to just lose if it looks like I'm going to lose, and that's happened a few times on the channel. It hasn't happened with Stellaris, actually, but it has happened with Civilization 6 a couple of times, for example. And of course, it's happened in the Long Dark. Just happened recently, as a matter of fact. But so first and foremost, I'll just put out there, for those of you who didn't see in the community tab, I polled the entire channel about this twice, and there were hundreds of responses to both polls, and I really appreciate you guys for chipping in and giving me your thoughts. And I want to talk about what some of the people said in those polls, because people made some really good points. And that's made it difficult for me to decide, and I want everyone to really know, what my thinking was, because again, I don't do this very often. So I recorded episodes 12 and 13, and you can still watch the series up to 1 through 13 if you would like, but after recording 12 and 13, I kind of took a step back. And remember this, by the way, remember what I just said, that I took a step back after recording a frustrating couple of episodes, because that's going to go into part of my decision explanation in a moment. I took a step back and I said, okay, I'm feeling like there are some genuinely bad things about this start. Yes, I was on a learning curve. I'm still learning the new systems, and I hadn't really had time to play with them. One thing that did affect that, and I mentioned this in the series, is that typically Paradox gives us about 5 days with press preview codes. For whatever reason, they only gave us 2 or 3 this time. There was a Friday embargo lifting as opposed to a Monday embargo lifting. It's really unusual at the first time, at least in my experience, that they've broken from their usual pattern. I'm not sure what the motivation was for that, but I will admit there was something that wasn't even to do with my not having time, which is another issue, to practice with the new systems. I wanted to get an episode out as soon as the content dropped, and we were able, well, the content didn't drop, but as soon as the embargo dropped. So that was one factor I will admit to very early on. But so yeah, there was a learning curve too, and I definitely learned some things while playing, and we were talking about it in the comments, and we figured out a lot of the stuff together while playing through the first 13 episodes. But there were still some things that were problematic with the start. We had 2 neighboring empires, both of which hated me and were warmongering with me and teaming up against me almost right away. Now, that's not a problem in and of itself, but it's an ingredient in a larger concoction, right? So that was the situation that I found myself in. I recorded 12 and 13, and we had been declared on for the second time by the Carthaginians, as we called them. And I just was like, you know what? I said early in the series that I wasn't going to, stop or restart the series unless I lost, but there's an aspect of me that's just not feeling this right now. There's a lot that's kind of gone into this series going the way that it's gone. Another component that's worth mentioning before I talk about the polls that I did and why I made the decision I made, another thing that's worth mentioning is that they did just patch Stellaris to 2.2.2. One of the things that they changed in that patch is that alloy base production from each job was raised from 2 to 3. That's a 50% increase in alloy production from alloy factories. That's substantive, okay? And alloys were part of my problem because I'm used to old Stellaris, where you crank out as many minerals as you can early on, and you really have to make sure that you are turning a decent proportion of those minerals into alloys early on so you can produce ships quickly and expand like a normal Stellaris player would in this new system. So they patched that, and that was part of my motivation for making the change and doing the restart that we're about to do. So what did I poll everyone, and what did people say? So I said, listen, I'm not feeling this. There's just there's a lot of pressure, and again, by itself, 2 enemy empires next door on a higher difficulty, bring it on. I was enjoying the challenge as much as the rest of any of you. I mean, a lot of you were saying, this is really entertaining, and I agree, but there were some things about it that were just rubbing me the wrong way. And so I said, okay, we can restart it. We can stick to our plan. First of all, that was option 1. We can say, let's just keep going. We can restart after, let's say, let me play this until episode 20, and then if it still sucks, then I'll restart it. We could say, no, let's just declare it botched. Let's just say, you know what? Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things that were kind of really bad luck, and also just things that didn't quite work out, including the embargo lift being earlier than usual, as well as, my learning curve. There's just a lot of things. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and restart it. And then the final option was, well, let us watch the first 2 episodes after, and then re-poll us. And most people said, just go ahead and restart it. Like the majority, over 50% majority, was saying restart it. These were the 2 biggest options. The biggest were people saying, no, go ahead and restart. And the second biggest, pretty close behind, was let's wait and see. So that's exactly what I ended up doing. Because it was so close, I ended up re-polling everyone, even though that wasn't the most popular option. And we went back and did another poll. And then the overwhelming majority said, let's go ahead and restart. Now, I want to say that when I do these polls and I ask for people's feedback on anything, whether it's a restart or not, I kind of treat polls of the Legion in 2 different ways at once. First of all, I treat them as a poll of all of you as individuals contributing to this statement of your will. And so there's obviously hundreds of people more that wanted to go ahead and just restart it, as opposed to still the hundreds of people that wanted to, see it through. And you guys are a representative sample, those of you who voted in the poll, of the greater population of viewers of the series. And because there are so many, I think the numbers are pretty good. It's pretty likely that your response pattern is pretty representative of how the entire viewership feels. But the majority seems to be, that we restart. And a pretty healthy number of people still want me to keep going as well, which I understand. And a lot of you in the comments section in the community tab made some good cases, just very practically speaking, saying, this is interesting. I know it's rough, but, try and stick to it if you can, because it's fun to watch and I think you could pull it out. And I was reading some of that and it really made me think. And I was like, man, I might stick to this. Honestly, even after the second poll, I was like, maybe I will stick to it. But there are more factors that went into the decision than just that. You might remember some foreshadowing a second ago. I said, remember what I said about, being able to back away after a couple of episodes. I am sitting down to record the next 5 episodes in the series right now, and then I'm leaving for the holidays, not only for a Christmas holiday. And by the way, when you guys are watching this, I think, Merry Christmas for those of you celebrating it. If not, happy holidays, and I hope everyone's having a nice, end of year solstice period. And most of us, I think, are off to a certain degree, whether it's for New Year's or something. So hopefully you're enjoying some time with family and friends, regardless of whether you celebrate. But I am going home, and I'm also going to be away after Christmas until after New Year's. Not long after New Year's, like the 2nd. But what that means is that I have to sit down and record some episodes in bulk. And I had to ask myself the question, what do I really want to do? If I am about to leave and I have 5 crappy episodes of this stuff, or if it doesn't go well, I might risk not having enough content to cover the time slots while I'm gone, and that will disappoint me. The other thing too, to be realer than real, to be completely transparent with you guys and just honest, part of what caused me to take a big break earlier in the year, I took a month and a half, just complete content stoppage. One of the big ingredients in that, I haven't talked about it too much, was the pressure. And I'm not saying you guys put a lot of pressure on me. This is pressure that I put on myself, and it's a mistake. The pressure to record content that is quote unquote entertaining or quote unquote going to be the most gripping or exciting, or that's going to drive the most views and subscribers. And this is a common thing with YouTubers. It causes a lot of fatigue because there's this drive to create content. And one of the ways that manifests for gaming YouTubers is that we end up playing in situations where we wouldn't normally play. So, like I said, I want to finish my thought from a moment ago before I wrap up here. I have 2 different ways that I think about, and this is a good thought to kind of conclude on, 2 different ways that I think about polls. And hundreds of you voted, and I do use the polls as kind of a measurement of your will and what you would like me to do in certain situations. But the other way that I look at it, and this is much more important in terms of the Let's Play format, is I kind of look at the options in terms of what if you were just an individual that I was sitting with in the same room and we were playing a game together, and all of your individual inputs as, you know, thousands of people watching the channel and voting in these polls was just representative of the different levels of interest in one person's mind for different things. You know, so what that means is that these polls ultimately indicated that if you were all one person playing a game with me right now, watching over my shoulder while we went over my process, and you were interested in how I played, and maybe you were trying to learn about the game, maybe you were just coming over to my place and we were hanging out and you wanted to see my process because you really love the game. Those are the two reasons really that people watch Let's Plays. You mainly decided to restart, but there was a part of you that was like, well, maybe we can see it through. And, you know, really think about for a moment what it's like to have a friend over and play a game, and maybe you're playing a game where it's just one person and the other person's watching, and maybe it is complex, and maybe sometimes you do have a bad start. Sometimes you just have one of those moments, and you stop, and you look at each other, and you just go, do you just want to restart? Do you just want to start over? You know, rather than being stubborn and like seeing it through. I'm not saying that seeing the last series through would have been exclusively stubborn. I think there were good arguments, like I said, for sticking to it. But anyway, this video's ended up being longer than I wanted it to be, but I really wanted to talk about kind of why I did the restart. And I know that, you know, I wanted to make it an optional video so that, as you can see, we didn't eat up 10 minutes at the front of an actual episode. So what I'm going to do in the end here is I did want to show you the settings, and we're going to start the game. I'm going to restart it probably a couple of times, because I want to make sure that we kind of start in a realistic start location for the Sol system. So we'll see how this plays out. So I hope that makes sense, and you can feel free to ask me questions in the comments, etc. You know, okay, that's a little bit too far out. You can feel free, like I said, to ask me comments in the questions. That's not an issue at all. Or ask me questions in the comments is what I meant to say. I'm happy to kind of talk about it, and I just wanted to give you some context for everything. I don't expect that everyone will be thrilled that we restarted the series. Again, it's not something I typically do, but ultimately, in conclusion, I kind of had to make the decision for myself based on what I really wanted to do. Really? That's the exact same spot almost. And that's what I went with. And I hope that's understandable. Let's see how this plays out. This might take a few tries, but obviously I wanted to be as authentic as I could and get this going. Really? You're starting me on the outside every single time. That's too far out. We know that we are on the edges of the Milky Way, but not like the edge. There's one of the outer arms that we're not on is kind of starting to snake its way around us, so we're not all the way on the outside like this series is trying to put us. Now that's pretty damn good, and you know what? I'm going with it because that actually looks a lot like our Roma Galactica I starting point, and I kind of like that. So we will use this as our start for the next episode, which, again, will be coming out pretty much as soon as this one has had a chance to air. So it's about 15 minutes long. I'll actually set it up to come out right as this one finishes, for those of you watching it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. I don't know why I'm saying this. This hasn't been a Let's Play video, but do let me know what you think in the comments, and we can talk about the restart. And again, hopefully everyone is on the same page. It is what the majority of you wanted, so I don't suspect there'll be too much complaint, but I know that there were some people who made some good cases, and I appreciate everyone for kind of chipping in and helping me decide. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.